Hi, my name's Colin Tsai and I'm here at NAB 2018 at the Avid booth, and today I'm showing our next generation Maestro Powerwall software. This is an all-in-one solution to control and manage content for in-studio displays. Any size, any aspect, any resolution of display. So today I'll be showing you our current generation Maestro Powerwall software, as well as a beta of our next generation that is meant to simplify the workflow and the pre-production process. So what we've got here is a large monitor wall receiving 3 HD outputs. So those are all synced together, so it functions as one wall. We also have a 16:9 HD source over to this monitor. We have a vertical HD source over to this monitor. And then something that's very unique to our system is our program preview. So this allows you to view every monitor in the studio and all the content on those monitors in the proper layout and proper aspect. So what this means is we don't need spy cams, we don't need camera people staying later to shoot the walls and make sure the content looks good. It can all be viewed directly from the control room. Now we also have the preview. The preview is nice because it allows you to edit content, view content, basically check and make sure everything's correct before it goes to air. It essentially acts like a second channel for the entire system. Over here we have the Powerwall UI. We have the preview in the program that will always match the preview in the program that is over on the display in the control room. So I can very easily, on the preview, as you'll see over here, select a different logo. At this point I'll do Detroit Red Wings. You'll see that updates, and then I can transition this to air. Now this is all real time. This is a graphics engine and video processor all in one. It's the same graphics engine we use for our virtual studios, our augmented graphics, our on-air graphics. So we don't have to pre-render anything. We don't have to go template A, B, C, D. We can do this really in any order and make any changes anytime we want to. Now, we also integrate with some third-party devices as well. We have a bidirectional communication with production switchers, as well as communication with video routers, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes. What we've got here is an iPad running the Powerwall Ipad app that is streaming content from the graphics engine directly to the iPad. Now, this allows for interactivity by the host. So you'll see here, if I select one of the touch spots on the monitor or on the iPad, it will automatically change on the monitor as well. I can then select another and make it go full screen, and this kind of allows your host to tell a story. The idea here is that instead of having a floating logo or a cityscape, we want the content in the monitors to be relevant to the story and help drive the story. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to deactivate the production and scene that's currently on the screen. I'm able to do this because we support up to 255 layers of graphics. Now, what that means is I can have background, foreground, tickers, logos, bugs, and I can control all of them independently. So right now I'll deactivate that screen here. And you'll see I have another background underneath. So what I'm going to do is select a pre-built template here. We have templates at the top and we have snapshots at the bottom. Templates are blank, and then snapshots are those templates that have been populated and saved for use during the production. Now you'll see over here on the preview, I have 8 boxes, and those 8 boxes match what's on my UI over here. And I mentioned earlier bidirectional communication with the switcher, meaning if I don't want to have an operator for this, I don't need one. I can walk over here, I can program this in to an EMEM or a macro within the switcher, and then automatically make the change without having to touch the UI. So we're not looking to add any operators to your workflow or complicate the workflow in any way. It's quite the opposite. We want to simplify this and make it as smooth as possible while taking a lot of the a load off the switcher and resources that would otherwise be used. We'd like to do that all within our system. Now, you'll see here I have my 8 boxes now on program. I'm going to select box 2 because I've realized that is the wrong source. So select box number 2, and it gives me a couple different options here. I can load in a clip. Now that clip comes off of the graphics engine itself. It has 2 terabytes of storage, and we'll play non-standard resolution clips as well, meaning if we have an odd-shaped high-resolution video wall like we do at the top here, we can very easily export a clip at that resolution, drop it onto the system, and play it in its native resolution. Now the other option is a still image, and these just come off of the server itself. And the final selection here is live video. Now, the system has 16 HD inputs. What we're seeing here, however, is not in1 through in16. We're seeing all of the sources that are available on the switcher. So if I was to select camera 3, for example, I'm actually changing the aux output on the switcher. We can do the same thing with destinations on a video router. So this is really handy if we have an 8-box segment and then a 4-box segment and then a 5-box segment all in a row. Instead of having the TD route all of those manually, we simply call up either from the switcher or from the UI that saved template, and it will do all of the routes at the same time immediately, and then we can bring it to air. So now I mentioned earlier that we can tie into data sources as well. So what I'm going to do here is add some text to box number 1 over here. So I'll select the text box in the UI. I can type something in manually using the on-screen or physical keyboard. I can select a pre-built value that I've put into my list ahead of time, or I can just simply select data. Now when I do that, it's actually going to tie to a database that we have that lists all of the sources on the switcher and their locations. So if I was to now change the source that's up there in box 1, you'll see that the location also changes automatically. So we can have locations, we can have host names that are in the field. Very, very simple and straightforward that way. And those can be very easily changed as well if one of those sources changes location at any one time. Now, additionally, we have a built-in DVE as well. So you'll see here all of these images on the top wall, all these videos are center cut. I'm going to select box 4 here because I want to center that one up a little bit more. And when I do that, I get this joystick on the screen that allows me to DVE the video source exactly like you would on the switcher, but without using the resources to do so. Now, I'll show you here we have another template here that's weather. So I'm going to transition this to air using the UI. Again, I could also use the switcher. And you'll see here, because of our transition logic, it takes the content that's on air off the screen and then brings in the new content. So we never have to worry about loading content on top of content. Now, the iPad here, you'll see, has also changed to show a different scene. That's because I've loaded a different scene into the system. I've loaded a different production, and the iPad is part of that graphics engine, so it changes. Anytime I select a map source on here or a location, you'll notice up at the top here that the weather will change and it will update from a live RSS feed or a SQL database or an Excel file. So you can really use this for election data, stock data, and it's very accurate and up to date as soon as you bring it to air. All right, so what I'm going to show you now as well, you'll notice that when I change this large monitor up here, the 16:9 monitor changed as well. That's because I built this tab within Powerwall to control more than one monitor. And the reason for that is that I have my anchor standing in the studio talking in front of a large, odd aspect wall, and then the director wants to take it full screen. Now, if it's not a 16:9 source, how can we do that? Well, traditionally, you'd have to rebuild the entire scene on your CG, and then you'd have to worry about syncing data up and making sure everything matched. All we've done here is we've taken the assets from the top wall, we've re-aspected them, resized them, sent them to another output, and that output goes into the switcher. We can take it full screen, and everything will always match. The video sources, the data, the logos, the color scheme, everything will be exactly the same. So it saves a lot of time in the pre-production process. Now, speaking of the pre-production process, one thing that we really wanted to do with their next generation of Powerwall is make that pre-production process very, very simple in terms of building layouts, building templates, and creating content in general. So what I'm going to do here is deactivate my content that I currently have on my wall and go back to our original scene and give you a quick demo of the beta software, next generation beta software of Powerwall. So you'll see over here, I'm going to open up the new UI. Now this new UI is a lot more streamlined, it's a lot cleaner, and but operational wise, it's still very, very simple to use. The training time for this operator software is typically less than 2 hours. Now, what's very nice here that everybody is going to love is the Maestro Powerwall Production Manager. So previous to this, it would take a good amount of time to create a single layout. It would take, we'd have to create a scene for that layout and then tie all of the animations and exports to that scene, from that scene to the Powerwall UI. What we've done now is we've eliminated that whole process. So we use something now that are called assets. And these are very basic Photoshop or After Effects files that we've taken and brought into our Maestro Designer software. We can add in animations, we can add in exports to expose certain properties, and then those show up within the Production Manager automatically. So I'll show you here, we're going to select a graphics engine, and we're going to select a canvas. So this lists all of my walls that I have here, and as I select that wall, it's going to automatically tell me the correct resolution. So I don't have to go in and set resolution, set pixel sizes, set aspects. We do all of that automatically now. So after I select the canvas, I can go over here and select the asset that I want to use. In this case, it's just going to be some boxes with some titles on them. And when I generate layouts, you'll see that immediately it generates all 12 layouts for me in the default 1 box to 8 box configurations. Now, I may not want those default configurations. I may want to change them. I may want to add additional assets to them. And we can do that right here. I can select one of those layouts. So let's choose our 2 box here. And you'll see that if I turn on my live mode, I can actually see that layout from the Production Manager on the monitor in the studio. So now I can simply move these boxes, I can resize these boxes, I can add additional assets. So let's say I want a lower third title here. I'm going to take an additional asset here and just drag it out. So it really allows for some very simple customization. All I need to do now is save this and then open my client, and I'll have access to this template and be able to populate it in the same way that I showed you earlier. So there's this and a lot more at the Avid booth this year. Feel free to come on down and talk to any of us. We'll give you a demo.